Hi everybody, welcome back to Friday Coding Club. Hope you guys are having a great summer. Wanted to introduce you guys to another website where you can do some free coding over the summer. Someone asked me the other day, why are you doing coding? Why is this important? Well, learning some computer coding would be great no matter what you decide to do. If you like art, if you like computers, if you like science, if you like math, computer coding is going to be something that will be helpful to you no matter what you decide to do. And it also is, if you know a little bit of coding, it's amazing. It's what you can accomplish. So I'll show you today that we can do all kinds of neat things just knowing a little bit of coding. Today's website is called hourofcode.com. It's probably something you've seen in school. And again, it's hourofcode, one word.com, and it'll bring you to a website that looks like this. And when you get to this website, you're going to hit activities, and it'll show you all the free Hour of Code activities that is available. Some of them you've probably seen before. I know a lot of you have done the Minecraft and the Flappy game and the Star Wars. There's a new one that they just put out that I wanted to show you. But feel free to go through this website to see maybe something new. All kinds of stuff. If you like to work with block coding, which is the blocks that we've used in Codable last week, where you drag blocks to do JavaScript coding, then just filter to see what uses blocks. If you're in a particular grade, if you like to do something a little harder, go ahead and try to filter using your grade. Today we're going to try something. Where did it go? There's a Harry Potter learning to code, and it uses JavaScript, but it uses blocks to help us with our JavaScript code. So we're going to click on Harry Potter Learn to Code and click on Start, and it's all free, and it'll bring you to a page that looks like this. Now inside the Harry Potter Hour of Code, there are a couple of different challenges for you, and we're going to do a few of them today, but go ahead and come back afterwards and see if you can try different ones. The first one is called Levitate a Feather. Alright, here in the middle screen where this big gray box is, that's where you're going to have all of your coding, and you're going to be dragging things from the left in block form into this space. Here is going to be our screen, and you'll see what our coding can do and what we can make happen over here in this space. If you would ever want to see the JavaScript, I'll show you that later, you can see the coding in JavaScript form. This window here is going to walk us through it, so you never have to worry about what to do next. It's going to give us a hand. So in this challenge, we're going to use code to levitate a feather, and we're going to use our mouse. So where our mouse goes, a feather is going to follow. We always start in the events when app starts. The computer needs to know when to start this program. Does it start when I click a mouse? Does it start when I use a space bar? Or does it just start when I start the app? Next is telling me to go to the objects tray. And then here we're going to create something on my screen. And look, I just create owl, named owl, at a certain x and y coordinate. So it goes over x 400, and it's going to be here at the y 300. If I move this x to, let's say, 100, it's going to be all the way over here and not in the middle of my screen. So that's what that number translates to. We'll put it back in the middle. All right. So we're not going to levitate owls today. We're actually levitating feathers. So I'm going to change here. It has a drop-down menu with all kinds of things you can try. And at the end of this, we're going to play around, and you can make your own things happen. So we're going to be making a feather here at the XY coordinate 400 and 300. But I also want it not to just float here, I want it to freeze. So I'm going to make sure that it's freezing right there at that location. It's not going to float around. I want it to control it. I don't want it to drop to the ground. Alright, so then we're going to do a loop. Every 1 second, something is going to happen. 1 second is a long time, so I'm going to actually make it milliseconds. and I wanted to change the location depending on where my mouse is going. So every millisecond it's going to find my mouse and move the feather to where my mouse is. So it's going to, so every 1 millisecond do object set, and I don't want it to be at a certain location, I want it to follow my mouse. So I have to add my mouse over here on the left, and I want it to find the mouse X coordinate and my mouse Y coordinate. And look at that. Every millisecond it's going to find, now if I'm faster than a millisecond, you'll see there's a little lag, but I want it to follow my mouse. All right. It'd be fun also to have some sounds. So there's going to be a speaker over here. And by the way, at any point you can go ahead and see with the JavaScript. This is the JavaScript coding that coordinates with my blocks. The computer does that for me. But if I play around in here, I can actually change things that happen on my screen. So I'm going to get some music going here. And again, see, look at that yellow dot. It's always going to tell me where I'm going to put my block. So speaker loop. Do you hear that wand casting? I want it to be a wand loop. So you can hear the wand loop sound. Alright. So now this is the end of my program. I've levitated this feather using my mouse. Now take a couple of minutes to play around over here. What if I don't want feathers? Let's see, what if I want chattering teeth? What if I want a different sound? Hear that banging sound? What if I even want to change the background? Alright, and all of this coordinates to the JavaScript coding that you'll see on JavaScript. So play around with that for a little bit before you go to the next program. Alright, and when you're done, hit next challenge, and we're back to the screen here. So we did the levitating a feather. You can go back and you can start again at any time. Or you can do the next one. I was going to do the next one. It's going to be Summon Birdie Bot's Ever Flavor Beans. And in this program, we have a different background. And I'm going to hit my mouse and beans are going to fly out of wherever I put my mouse on the screen. So instead of starting it when the app starts, this time I want to start when I click the mouse. So the program doesn't begin until I click that mouse. Now I'm going to repeat something. I'm going to change this to 5. So I'm going to be, this is my loop. 5 times I'm going to be doing what? I'm going to be creating, I created 5 owls. Every time you do this and you want to go back, you just hit this refresh button. But I don't want to create owls, I want to create the beans. And there I go. I just created, every time I click, I create 5 beans. But they're always being created right here in the middle of my screen. I wanted to create it where my mouse is. So I want to make sure that this X is my mouse X. Make sure to get that in there. And my Y is my mouse Y. And now I can move it around. Now you can see how they're always going to be where my mouse is, but they're also just going down. I would like it to go into different directions now. So the next thing I'm going to do is open the physics tray, physics meaning that some kind of movement is happening. And I want my beans to move in a certain direction. And I don't want to give it a number, I want it to be random, and that's kind of cool if I do it random. That way it always looks different. So you know your angles, a whole circle is 360, so a random 360, and my strength is going to be 50. And there you go. See how it's randomly going in different directions. And my strength is 50. What does strength mean? Let's see if I make this 5. It's not there going very far, so 50 makes it go a little bit farther. All right. Again, we're going to give it some sound, so I'm going to bring over my speaker, and we're going to put this right here. And instead of one cast, we're going to give it a popping sound all the way down. Look at all the different options we have. And if you listen real carefully, you'll hear a popping sound. And you can always refresh if you get too many beans on your screen. So now that this program is finished, go ahead and change some things around. Give yourself a different background. Oh, that's the same background. Lots of different backgrounds here. And instead of beans, let's try Fluffy the dog. Or flutes. Alright. And you can also play around with the sound. So that's this program. Make sure you go back and take a look at what your JavaScript is. You created all that code. We're going to do one more challenge here. There's 5, but I only have time for 3. So I'm going to try to do the fireworks. This is where we're going to make fireworks happen with our coding. Alright, so again, you're going to have to start it somehow. We're going to start it just by the beginning. When the app starts, the program's going to start. Every 1 second, something is going to happen. So this is going to be another loop. Every second, something happens until I refresh and start again. A second is a long time. So instead of seconds, we do frames. Frames are a really short amount of time. You'll see that in a second. And what are we going to make? We're going to make particles come out, which is going to be like fireworks. As you can see here, at the X and Y coordinate, X 400, Y 300, at that point, I am creating particles, which look like circles. I want to have a little more control over it. So instead of a certain point, I'm going to move my mouse around, so then every time I move my mouse, that is the point where my particles are being created from. Look at that, looks pretty cool. I also want to change the direction. Look at this, it's all going to be at 45 degrees. We don't want that, right? We want it to be pretty random. So I'm going to put it right here as random. And I'm going to change it to 360. But you can go back at the end and change it to something else. So look at that, it's going to be all random in different angles. But the strength I'm also going to change. These are kind of big, they don't look like fireworks. If I make it a little smaller and a little slower rather, that one looks more like fireworks. Alright, we're going to change some of the color because white is fine, but we wanted this to be a little bit more colorful. What happens is there's a start color and an end color. So I want to start really dark, and I want it to end very light. Oops, end very light. And start very dark. Alright, so the start color is dark and the end color is light. See that? And I want the size to get smaller as you, it kind of fizzles out. So it starts at a 10. But it goes to a 5. Alright. Starts at a 10, it goes to a 5. So that means it gets a little bit smaller, so you can kind of see that it fizzles out. The lifespan, also how long this is going to last. 1,000 is kind of long, so we're going to make that half that to 500 and see how the lifespan of these particles are only going to be 500 frames. one more thing I want to do is add an explosion. So we're going to go back to control. So every 1 second, so every one frame, that's very short, but every 1 second I'm going to have a big particle explode. I don't want it to be, see how the big particle is exploding? I don't want it to be at a certain point. I want it to be wherever my mouse is. So I have to make sure it's mouse X and Y. I also want the color to match my color. It's a little purpley. And I want to make sure that I have a little bit of a bang for my fireworks. Firework whoosh, which is, I believe, all the way down at the bottom. Okay, so these are bigger ones. That's going to give it kind of a whoosh, and then you'll have some of the smaller particles. Looks like fireworks. So some fizzing and some banging. Fizz with a bang. Now this is the end of our program, and you can take a look at all the JavaScript that helped us get there. But this would be a good time to play with some of the colors. Some red. Maybe you want to try a different sound. Maybe we want to play with the strength. See how much faster that is. Alright. So lots you can do and play around with it. Play around with your background. Alright. So those are 3 of the 5 that are here. The Harry Potter Hour of Code. And go back to Hour of Code and find a different one that you think would be interesting. Play around with it. There's lots here. And they change them all the time. Thanks for playing with coding with me on our coding club. Next week we're going to try one other. I think we're going to try some Scratch. If you've done Scratch before, you can help me make a Scratch program. And but let me know how you like it and what other coding programs you've been using this summer. Hope you guys are having a great summer, and I will talk to you next week. Take care.